Hello everyone, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing a makeup update or makeup recap, makeup review, whatever you would like to call it, of all of the makeup products that I tried in April and in May. So it's the 17th of June when I'm filming this, so I've had quite a while to test out these products more since the original videos I did on them. So there was 2 first impressions, one in April, one in May. There was a full face of testing e.l.f. makeup, a couple products from my KOHL video, and I think that's about it really. But yeah, quite a lot of makeup products that I've tried, and I will just be going over any updated thoughts that I have or any elaborations on opinions I have on these products since the original videos that I made of them. So we'll start with primers. So the first primer I used in my April's first impressions, and this is the Barry Glowmance Soft Focus primer. I actually do really like this. I have used it a few times. I don't use primers every day just because, I mean, it's just like an extra step in your makeup routine, and if you've got limited time to get ready, you know, I'm not going to bother with a primer. But when I have time, this is one of the ones I've been reading for a lot. It does have just this really nice glow to your skin, but it's not too much. It doesn't make you look super oily or super glittery or anything like that. I've used it today. It's just very kind of natural, but there's definitely some noticeable radiance there, so I do really like it. I'm never mad about primers though anyway, so I'm not saying wow, I can't live without it or anything, but for a primer it's nice. I tried this one in May's first impressions. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Magic Essence Drops, and I've used it a couple times, but this one I just don't really have much to say about. It's just very kind of, you drop it on your face, you blend it in, it doesn't really do anything to your skin. It wouldn't really say it adds radiance, I wouldn't say it blurs your pores or anything like that. It's just, I mean, it feels nice, it feels quite moisturising, I would say, but it just doesn't do an awful lot. Not really noticed if it's improved makeup at all, but it says here that it's supposed to be brightening. I mean, I don't really know how that would work. Brightening your skin, isn't that what you use concealer for? So I mean, I just don't really have a lot to say about this, to be honest. I did get a few primers just in cohorted beauty boxes, so I'm not sure if I've actually used any of these on my channel. I think this was in the April one. We got 2 primers from Figs and Rouge. Well, I don't know if this one's technically a primer, but that's the way I would use it. It's the Morning Glow Drops. They are really pretty. I do quite like these ones. They're very glowy, very luminescent. I don't know if maybe it's meant to be a liquid highlighter or what, but I don't like liquid highlighters. I've never really liked that sort of format of highlighter. But as a primer and the foundation, it is really glowy and really pretty, so I like it. If I'm honest, I actually don't really like this one. This is the Figs and Rouge Soft Focus Pore Perfect HD and Matte Veil Hydra Pore. The reason why I don't really like this is just that I found that it's, you know how sometimes you'll put foundation over the top of I don't know whether it's a primer or a skincare or whatever, and it just kind of balls up and kind of texturizes. I found that every time I've used this primer, it's done that. Even if I've left it on my skin, because I thought maybe, oh, I was putting my foundation on too quickly after applying it, so I left it longer, and I still found that it did that. And I don't really feel I noticed much blurring of the pores, to be honest, so this was kind of disappointing to me. I got this in either the April or the May box, but it's a little mini Too Faced Hangover primer. I think I've maybe used this once. I mean, primers, I'm just not really gonna use them that often. If I am gonna use one, I think I prefer to use a glowy one like the Barry Glowmance or this Figs and Rouge one. I mean, I think it's just a fairly average standard primer, this. So I'm going to move on from primers because I'm never going to have a lot to say about primers. Yeah, I still continue to buy them. I don't really know why. So I tried 4 foundations in total in April and May, and these are all going to have their own reviews in this series that I'm doing, which I'm hoping I can get the first part up at the end of June, maybe early July, but I'm basically just reviewing all of the foundations in my collection, and I kind of started with the ones that were in my rotation at the moment. So these are all going to have reviews, so I'll go into more detail in that video, so I'll just kind of summarize in this one. Basically, out of these 4 foundations, I found one that I absolutely love, one that I don't like so much, and then 2 that are just quite average to me. So I'll talk about my favourite one first. And that would be this guy, the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. Mine is in the shade, I think, Porcelain. It's a tiny bit dark for me. I can sort of make it work. I didn't put in any white mix today when I used it, because I have got this one on today, but I don't know, I still feel like I can kind of see a bit of a difference between my neck and my face. So I do feel like it would benefit with a white mixer, but it's not really off in colour or anything. So when I tried this in my first impressions, I liked it, but I wasn't like blown away by it, just because I'd seen a lot of people hyping it up. But the more I used it, the more I fell in love with the formula of this. It has really good wear, and like I wasn't expecting it to, but it's definitely one of the best wearing foundations that I've found. It just stays on your face, it doesn't sink into your texture horribly and break down horribly. It's just got really good wear, and I find that really hard to find. I can only really count like on one hand how many foundations I've had that have like really good wear. So I was really impressed with that aspect of it. I really like the finish as well. It just looked quite lightweight, it doesn't look heavy, it doesn't look cakey. The only like bad thing about this is it's not full coverage, but it's still a nice level of coverage. Like I have personally got no issue with the coverage, because I prefer a medium coverage foundation anyway, because then I go over the top of it with full coverage concealers. So in the end I am full coverage, if you get what I mean. So I have no issue with the coverage personally, but if you like full coverage foundations, it's not going to be that. But for my preferences, this is pretty much a foolproof foundation, because it's nice medium coverage, has a nice finish where it doesn't look too heavy on the skin, doesn't emphasize my texture too badly, and actually stays on my face. So to me, I think I found like my new drugstore favorite foundation. My favorite before was the Maybelline Superstay. Like I don't know if I necessarily prefer it, or I feel like they're just the same kind of quality to me. I feel like this one maybe wears a bit better than the Maybelline one, but the Maybelline one has a little bit better coverage. But yeah, this is definitely probably going to be a new favourite drugstore foundation. Well, kind of not even necessarily just drugstore, just all round foundation. The one that I didn't like so much, and I'm going to kind of go into this a lot more in that review video, is the MUA Pro Base Longwear Matte Finish Foundation. I have done a whole review on this foundation, which I'll put in the card up on the screen here in the corner. I've used this like, I want to say like 5 or 6 times. I've tried different ways to get it to work for me. I found the best way I got it to look nice in me was actually using this guy, the L'Oreal Shake and Glow setting spray, which I'll talk about at the end of this video. But I found that like if I applied it and then kind of went with the setting spray, then concealer, and then the setting spray, and just kind of did setting spray like at every point, that was the nicest I could get it to look. But I mean, it's just like a lot of hassle, and even then it still didn't look amazing. Like I wasn't in love with it. I just find it a bit too dry on my skin. When I first tried it, I thought the coverage was really good, but then in that review video I did, I found that if you like put less on, because I know people say, oh, if you don't want your foundation to look cakey or heavy or whatever, put less on. But then if you put less on, you don't get like full coverage or even really good coverage at all. It actually looks quite light coverage if you don't put a lot on, but then it still has like the same issues with like it looking quite textured and it looking quite dry. So for me, I know a lot of people have liked this. I think this is a bit divisive. I've seen a lot of people really like praise this, and I've seen a lot of people not like it. So I think, again, it's just going to depend on skin type. I don't hate it. I can get it to work and look sort of nice, but it never looks like amazing on me. It's just way too dry in my opinion. The wear is okay. I found the first few times I used it, I didn't really have any issues with wear, but again in that review, I hope this video goes up soon so you can understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, I found in that video it didn't actually wear as nicely. I can remember correctly, it was like my forehead in particular, it didn't look nice. So I just feel like I've had like mixed experiences every time I've used this. So overall, I just don't think I'm going to keep this now that I filmed this video. It's just not for me. So I know some people will like it because I have seen other people have liked it, but for me, it's just the dryness that for me is just a no. And then these two I have sort of like average thoughts on. Like these aren't bad foundations, they look decent enough on the face, but I don't love them. And again, I've got reviews on these in that video. But the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation in the lightest shade, which is Lily, it is a really good shade. It's actually a tiny bit lighter than my skin. But yeah, it's got a really good shade range, this foundation. It looks fine. Like, the coverage I'd say is like a sort of medium coverage. Like, it's okay coverage. It's not great, but it's good enough for me. Finish is nice. I do feel like it sits in my texture a little bit. I don't love how it looks on the skin, but I don't hate it either. Like there's nothing that like I look at it instantly like, oh my god, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's not good. But there's nothing like special about the way it looks on my skin. It's alright. Wear, I think, if I remember correctly, the wear isn't great. It does break down quite badly by the end of the day. I mean, this isn't a bad foundation, but for me it's just a bit average, and I don't think now that I've taken it out of my rotation that I'm going to reach for it a lot. Then the CYO matte foundation no shine zone in the shade 203, which I'm pretty sure is the lightest shade. The shade is just so off, and it's one of those things where I will have to put so much white mixer in it to get it even close to my actual face, and that's just a pain in the ass because I hate when you're just using like mostly white mixer and then like a tiny bit of foundation. It's almost like, what's the point? So the shade is a real issue for me. Obviously I have still tried to use it, like, I mean, there are some days where foundation's too dark and I just kind of go with it, like quite often actually. The coverage of this is actually really nice. I say out of all of these foundations, this one probably has got the best coverage. I would say it's like a high medium coverage, so I will give it some props for that. One weird thing about this is it's called like a no shine zone, like that is written on the packaging. This is so oily. This is such an oily foundation. If you had oily skin, I can imagine you'd probably have some issues with this. I think the wear was like decent. It wasn't bad wear wise, but I do feel like it looked a little bit heavy and like a little bit noticeable and slightly cakey on the skin, so it wasn't my favorite finish for that reason. But yeah, coverage was good. The wear I think was alright. I'm going to have to watch that review back to remember. If you can find like a shade that works for you, like I would maybe give it a go. It's certainly not a bad foundation by any means, but the colour's just too off for me to the point where it just kind of puts me off using it, because I don't like to just use like 3/4 white mixer and then like 1/4 foundation. I just find that like pointless. In terms of formula, it's okay. Coverage pretty good, wear not too bad, not amazing wear, but not bad. That's my thoughts on the foundations. So the concealers now. So I've actually got 5 concealers in total. So I'm just going to go for this in no particular order. Which one first? This one. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Morvan concealer, which I think I tried in April. I don't love this, to be honest. I just think it's way too dry, the formula. Under the eyes, it doesn't look nice. It just settles into all of my lines like really badly, and it just looks really dry. Even over the top of foundation, which sometimes I find with concealers that are dry just on my bare skin, they'll look okay over the top of foundation, but even then I still feel like the dryness kind of pokes through. And because it's like slightly lighter than my skin tone, I would want to use it like in my eye area, like that's what I'd want to use it for, and I don't like how it sits under my eyes, so you know. And also, I wouldn't even say it's full coverage, to be honest, which a lot of people have said that this is full coverage. I personally think the other one that I'm going to talk about in a minute, the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer, I think this is full coverage. I think this is better, hands down, than the L'Oreal one. So I know a lot of people have compared these two. I would definitely get the e.l.f. one over the L'Oreal one. I think the e.l.f. one's a bit cheaper as well. Yeah, I think this is like $4.99 or something. This is like a tenner, I think. Yeah, but on me, this definitely wasn't full coverage. Like, it was good coverage. It was good coverage. Like, I'm happy with the level of coverage, but I don't know. I just thought it would be a bit better than what it is. I still could see darkness poking through in my eye area when I used it. I think it's kind of too light really to use like on the outer parts of my face, like on blemishes or redness, because it's so light. I don't know, I just find it looks heavy, it sits in your lines. For me, I just was a bit underwhelmed with this concealer. I might as well go into this guy, the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer. Mine is in the shade Fair Warm. Again, they're kind of similar shades. This is slightly lighter than my skin tone, but it works really good in the eye area. I will use it, I've used it today, under my eyes and on my eyelids. Now, it does have more of a matte formula, and it can be a bit dry, especially on bare skin, but I don't really tend to use it on bare skin anyway. I've absolutely loved using it over the top of foundation, like under my eyes and on my eyelids, and sometimes to like brighten up my face. I think this is actually really good. Like, I'm so impressed with this concealer. For me, this is full coverage, like, and for drugstore, I think that's so impressive, like, for it to be full coverage. I know people have different definitions of what full coverage is, but me personally, this is it. When I used it on my eye area, it covered everything. It covered all the purple, it covered all the veins. And then when I use it over the top of foundation, it just adds so much like brightness to that area. It's just very pigmented and high coverage. I think it's really good. The only issue is on bare skin, I do find it can look a little bit dry. So it's not the sort of concealer I would use if I'm just, you know, doing my makeup really quick and just want to throw concealer on instead of foundation. I wouldn't necessarily go for this one, but I've been using it so often over the top. I think that this is really good, and for such a like cheap price, like, I'm actually really impressed. I think this is going to be one of my new favourite drugstore concealers, definitely. And I'd even consider getting like a slightly deeper shade just so I could use it like on blemishes and redness around the face. Yeah, I definitely prefer this one over the L'Oreal one. In fact, I really like it. The other two drugstore ones that I've got, the e.l.f. Flawless Concealer. I don't like this one as much. It does have a nice like kind of finish to it. It's very like lightweight. It doesn't settle into your lines. It's very moisturizing as well. So it has got a nice sort of finish. It's just not full coverage. It's not great coverage. It's like a kind of medium sort of coverage. I personally prefer more coverage from a concealer. I kind of just, for me, it's like I like my foundations to be medium coverage and then to use concealers that are either full coverage or a very high medium coverage, if you get what I mean. For me, the coverage lets this down, but I think if you're the sort of person that likes a lightweight concealer that has some coverage but isn't full, I know there are a lot of people that do like that in their concealers and their base products generally, so I think if that is what you're after, I would recommend it for the finish. It is really good, but for me, I personally just want more coverage from my concealers, and that's where this lets me down. Also, the shade is like a tiny bit dark for me, and this is the lightest warm tone shade. This one I just wouldn't bother with. This is the MUA Pro Base Full Coverage Concealer in 101. It's not full coverage. That's a silly name. I just don't like this. It's not good coverage, and if it's not going to be good coverage, I at least want it to have like a nice texture and a nice finish. But again, I found like with the foundation, it's just too dry, the formula of this, and also it doesn't work well with the accompanying foundation. Like there's some weird separation and stuff going on with that. I just wouldn't bother with this. I mean, it's only like £2.50, but yeah, this is just meh to me. I wouldn't bother. This guy I really like. This is the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I really like this. I think people are right for hyping this up. It is a very good coverage. I don't think it's quite as good as the Jouer coverage, but I do feel like it does kind of meet that full coverage criteria, definitely. One issue I have with this is that it's like a tiny bit dark for me. I tend to use it, so what I've been doing mostly these last 2 months is using the e.l.f. eyelids, under eyes, and then using this like on my nose and around my mouth, and it's fine for that. The colour is. This was the lightest shade, it's Swan. However, I think either this month or last month they've added more shades, which is great. I know there's like a couple lighter shades, so if I were to repurchase this, which I think I might do, like it's not like high on my priority list to repurchase it or anything, but I think in the future I would eventually get another one, so I'm glad that I have an option to get a lighter one now, because that's kind of my one issue with it, is that it's like a tiny bit dark for me. But I love the coverage. It's also not too heavy like a lot of concealers that have really good coverage are. Then again, it's not as full coverage as some concealers that I've tried, so it's kind of like, yeah, it's not too heavy. It's got a nice texture and decent coverage, definitely. I think this is a very good concealer. I do really like it. Could have benefited from light shades, so I've kind of picked the wrong time to purchase it, really. I should have waited like a month or so, shouldn't I? That is the concealers, so let's move on to powders. So I tried quite a lot of powders actually, so I'm just going to choose a random order here. I'll start with the one that I used today. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Magic Loose Powder. Now, this is actually a very nice powder. I've used this one set my face today. I actually think it's really good. I tend to use a sponge with this. Like, I don't bake with it. I just kind of pat it in like under my eyes and basically all over my face, really. It's got a really nice finish. It doesn't crepe up or separate any of my makeup like most powders do, because I really struggle with powders. So I was actually really impressed with this. However, it does one thing that annoys the hell out of me. It is a type of powder where your treat products will not show up very well on top of it. Like your highlighter in particular, it just like, it's not going to show up as nicely, and it's just like really annoying, and I don't understand why the hell it does that. It's not as bad with bronzer, but it does do it with bronzer as well. Like, I mean, I've got some highlighter and bronzer on today, and I just feel like it's not shown up anywhere near as like much as I would want it to, because I don't know why, it's so bizarre to me. And the thing with this, I know a lot of people like to use loose powder under their eyes and then like a pressed one on the outer parts of their face. You can't really do that with this, because then there's like a weird cut-off point where your highlighter is really pigmented and then your highlighter is not showing up at all, and then it just looks patchy and it doesn't look nice. So you can't really do the like half loose powder, half pressed powder thing with this either. You've got to use it all over, and it's such a shame because I actually really like the formula of it. I think it's a really good powder. It doesn't oxidize my makeup or anything. It's basically translucent. I mean, it's kind of blue, but it definitely doesn't make your face look blue or anything. Like, it just kind of, it's basically translucent. Like, it doesn't make you any lighter or anything. So, I mean, if that's a day where I'm not too fussed about having like pop-in highlight, then it's absolutely fine. I like it. It's just, if I want my highlight to look really nice, I can't use this powder. So it's just such a weird thing because I really like the formula. But of course there'd be one issue with it, wouldn't there? Because the world's not going to let me find my perfect powder. Oh, and this guy, this is the MAC Studio Fix powder in the shade NC10. And I really, really wanted to love this, but I don't. First of all, the shade is a tiny bit dark for me, and this is the, I think this is probably the lightest shade you can get. I mean, it's definitely the lightest of these C's. It just kind of makes me look a bit orange, and it's so annoying because it was expensive and I really, really wanted to like this. It does add a little bit of coverage, which is nice. But again, I actually don't really like how it sets under my eyes and on my eyelids. I mean, to give it the benefit of the doubt, it is a powder foundation, so it's probably not meant to be used under the eyes or in any areas like that. The times I have used it, it's just looked way too heavy and way too like powdery and cakey. I don't think it does it when you just use it on the outer parts of your face. Like, I feel like it doesn't look heavy or cakey. But again, I can notice like the colour difference and it's really irritating. It mattifies quite well, but like, if I'm honest, I just expected a bit more from it in terms of the finish. Like, I didn't feel like it made me look flawless or blur out my pores or blur out any texture or anything like that. It just kind of looked very like an average powder to me. Added like a tiny bit of coverage, but not a lot. I don't know, I was kind of just expecting a lot from this. I think a lot of it is down to the colour. If I have a bad experience with the colour, it kind of just puts me off the powder altogether, you know. I did try a bunch of e.l.f. powders. So this one I thought I liked for a while, but the last few times I've used it, I've not really liked it, so I'm very confused with my experience with this powder. But this is the e.l.f. blotting powder in the shade Sheer. I thought it was a really good shade. I did actually smash this, so there's like not, it's just kind of dead now. I can't really use it anymore. I did think the shade was good, but then I noticed the last couple of times I used it, it's light, but I feel like it oxidizes my makeup when I use it. Like, it kind of just makes everything look a bit more orangey. And then the last few times I've used it as well, I found that it's kind of like separated my concealer under my eyes and just looked too much. So I thought I liked it because I'd hit pan on it and I'd used loads of it. But maybe I just wasn't paying attention to my skin when I was using it. I was just trying to get my makeup done and like go to work or go to whatever I was doing. So I don't think it's a bad powder, but it's just it's not great. There was 3 different other e.l.f. powders that I used, and I've not really used these a lot because they're just all too dark for me. If it's too dark, I'm not really gonna want to use it. So I got the Beauty Shield loose powder in Sheer Natural and the matte setting powder in Light. They're just like, they just come up. Okay. I just found that they came up too dark on me and it would just look like a patch of like yellow under my eyes. And then this is the finishing powder in the shade Fair Light, and again, it's just too dark on me. Why does this always happen? So I've not really got anything great to say about those because they're just too dark. Oh my god, so I brought this Maybelline matte makeup powder at the beginning of May, I think, and it's middle of June, I still haven't been able to get the freaking lid off it, so I can't tell you anything about this powder because I still can't get into it. Then I bought another NYX HD powder, but I had tried this, like, I think this is the 3rd time I bought it actually, so I know I like it, hit ban on it, obviously. This is a good powder, it's just standard. I've heard that it does give like flashback, but I like never take flash photos, so that doesn't bother me. I did also get the banana shade. Unfortunately, this is just too dark for me. I couldn't really get it to work. The only time I could get this to work is like if I had like a really light base on, which doesn't happen that often. Sometimes, but not often. I'm going to stick with the translucent one for this. Okay, bronzers. I tried the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil in April. I really like this. Definitely a new favourite bronzer. Oh my god, every time I open it, that smell is just so good. Really good shade for pale skin. I will say with this one, it is quite pigmented. And generally, I prefer my bronzers to be less pigmented. But with this, it just blends out so easily that it doesn't really matter to me. Like, if I put a bit too much on, it blends out and it looks fine. So it's not really an issue that it is a bit more pigmented. Love the colour. Love the effect. Perfect, really. And the smell is amazing. This one is definitely way less pigmented and way more natural. But this is the e.l.f. Sun-Kissed bronzer. I like this though because I do like kind of natural bronzers that you do have to build up. Generally, I do prefer that, but as I said, like with the Too Faced one, it blends out so seamlessly that it doesn't really matter. This is a really nice shade. I do actually really like this bronzer. Again, it's quite sheer, so if you prefer like a more impactful bronzer, then you probably wouldn't like this, but I personally like to be able to kind of build it up and adjust the kind of bronziness anyway. So for me, this is a nice little cheap bronzer actually, and I actually quite like this shade. I feel like it looks a bit orangey, but for me, I didn't find that it looked orangey on the face or anything. It just looked like a really nice like bronzy glow on me. This one I do have some issues with the colour. It's the Maybelline City Bronzer in the shade 250 Medium Warm. I do think they have a lighter shade, but it's only in the US, I think, so I would be interested in getting the light shade if they ever do bring it to the UK. This I just feel like it's a bit too reddish and a bit too deep for me. With some blending I can get it to look semi-nice, but for me it's a bit too deep for my fair skin. It's a nice formula, can't fault the formula, so if you can find the shade in this one that you like, then great. But for me it's just a tiny bit too dark. Can get it to work, but I would just rather reach for something that's already a decent colour. 2 out of 3 of those bronzers are really nice. I tried 2 highlighters. I've got the Too Faced Diamond Fire highlighter. This is stunning. I really like this. It is a really nice, gorgeous highlighter. I love that it's kind of got a holographic, like, ethereal, like 50 different million colour reflex in it. It's really pigmented, but it's not too much. It looks quite natural, has a really nice texture, it's very smooth. It's just not too much. If you want like an absolutely bang highlight, like super duper pigmented, it's not that. But generally I prefer highlighters that are more like this, just a little bit more natural looking. But I mean, it's still pigmented, like it shows up really well, don't worry. I really like this. It's a really nice highlighter. The only thing with this is it's expensive for what it is. Do I think that you need to buy this? Not really, no, because there are so many good drugstore options out there. So I wouldn't say rush out and buy this, but you know, if you might want to treat yourself for Christmas or your birthday, or I don't know, you've just done some really good work that month and you deserve a treat, then yeah, this is a nice highlighter. But there are drugstore ones that are like of similar qualities. This one is on the more affordable side of the spectrum. This is the e.l.f. Metallic Glare highlighter, I think is what it's called, in the shade White Gold. And as with a lot of e.l.f. highlighters, you do have to kind of scrape at it a bit, but I've got a nice hot spot here where it's got a nice bit of pigment. This is really nice. It's a really pretty highlighter. Again, it's not too much, it's not too blinding, but it's like a really nice goldeny sort of glow. They have a few different shades of this. I wouldn't say this is like a new favourite highlighter. I've got better drugstore ones that I like, but it's decent, like it's fine. I'd happily wear it on my face and be happy with my makeup. Okay, so let's move on to brow products. I'll talk about this one first. So I think I tried this one in May. May's first impressions. This is the Revlon Brow Fantasy by Colorstay in dark brown, and you've got a pencil on one end and a gel on one end. I don't love this. You cannot get a precise brow with this. If you like really like fluffy and kind of wild, untamed brows, it's quite good for that. It just gives them a very like bushy effect, which sometimes I've done it and liked how it's looked. Other times I'm just like, it's just a bit too much. What I tend to do is just brush through my brows with a clear gel and then just kind of fill my whole brow in with the pencil and then just brush through it afterwards with the gel. I would rather the gel had a smaller wand. I just prefer that. It's got a bit of a weird texture, the gel, I find. You can't really use it to fill in your brows. It's more of a setter, definitely. It's just not got the right sort of texture to like fill in your brows, like, you know, for example, the e.l.f. one that I'm going to talk about in a minute. This is just like, you cannot get any kind of precision with this sort of brow product, which, I mean, I do like my brows to be a little like more natural and like slightly untamed, but for me, I just still want a bit more precision than what I can get with this. It's not terrible. If you like wild fluffy brows, then you can get a decent brow look in terms of that out of it, but it's just not my fave. These two guys I really like. This is like a really good brow combo. So it's the e.l.f. Wow Brow Gel in the shade Deep Brown, and then with it I got the Ultra Precise Brow Pencil by e.l.f. also in the shade Deep Brown. I got these two on my brows today. I really like both of these. The gel doesn't have too much excess on the brush. It has enough pigment to kind of, you know, comb through your brows and give them tint, but it's not too much. It doesn't make your brows look really harsh and unnatural and blocky or anything like that. Easy to use. This is basically like my kind of ideal brow gel really, and the wand is a really good size for me, and the smaller the better. I just want something very intricate that I can get in there with and isn't just going to kind of splodge everywhere. So for me, this is a really good brow gel. I really like this, really impressed with it. Probably a new favourite, especially from the drugstore. And the micro brow pencil, micro brow pencils, there's never that much to say about them. But this one is a good colour, it's super smooth, not too harsh, so it's a really good brow pencil, really like it. See, the thing with the other micro brow pencil I tried, this is the Ardell Brow Liberty micro brow pencil in the shade Soft Black. I do find that this one's like a little bit thicker in formula, like it's kind of a bit more noticeable on your brows. And maybe that is partly due to the colour, because it is a bit deeper and it is more of a black colour. It's literally called Soft Black, but it works. It's an effective micro brow pencil. It's just not as kind of like smooth and as lightweight as the e.l.f. one, but it works, it does the job. I prefer this sort of colour for when I've got like freshly dyed black hair, which at the moment my hair's kind of faded to a weird sort of dark brown colour. So I prefer it when my hair is like more in peak blackness. It's okay, I prefer the formula of the e.l.f. one though, but it's certainly not a bad micro brow pencil. And then I also tried the Maybelline Tattoo Brow Waterproof Gel in the shade Deep Brown. And I don't like this as much as the collection one that I tried, that I spoke about in my March recap. It's called like the Fast Brow, but then they've rebranded it, so it's now called the Incredibrow. I much prefer the formula of that one. It's just way more kind of lightweight and natural looking. This one, like, I can get a nice brow out of it. What I tend to do with these sorts of things is just brush through my brows either with a spoolie or a clear gel, and then I get kind of like an angled brush and like dab it on this little dough fit, and then just kind of paint on my brows basically. That's what I tend to do with it. And yeah, it looks nice, but to me it just looks a bit kind of thick, you know what I mean? Like the formula's quite thick, it's not as lightweight as the collection one that I really like. I can get a decent brow out of it, definitely. Like, my brow looks fine, but I just don't love them. So for me, this product is a bit like, I don't love it, to be honest. I tried 4 KOHL eyeliner pencils. So the first one was this Ciate. This is actually a liquid liner as well. It's the double lines. Is that just what it's called? The double lines. The one end is this sort of KOHL liner. It's quite pigmented, it shows up quite well. It doesn't wear the best, like it's quite a lot of fading by the end of the day, but it's still on there, you know, it's just faded quite a lot. I don't love this sort of applicator, it's just a bit scary. I feel like intimidated every time I put it on my eyes. See, like it is pigmented, like it shows up quite well, and it shows up well in the waterline as well. But I don't know, for me it's just not like my favourite KOHL liner. Like it's absolutely fine, but liquid liner is terrible though. I don't like it. It's just so sheer, it does not show up well at all. This I got in a cohorted beauty box. Overall, like this product just, like the KOHL is fine, like it's acceptable, but I just, The other 3 I've got, they're all twisty up ones. So I've got the Max Factor KOHL Kajal liner in 01 Black. I got the e.l.f. No Birds Retractable liner in black, and the Maybelline Lasting Drama Gel 24-hour automatic gel pencil. I would say that the Max Factor one and the Maybelline one have the best kind of longevity, like they're still like quite prominent on the eyes at the end of the day. I prefer the Maybelline one. I feel like it just applies a little bit smoother. It just feels a bit nicer on the actual waterline than the Max Factor one, but all 3 of these are like equally pigmented. I'd say they're all like really just dramatic pigmented blacks that show up really well and opaque on the lash line, so can't fault any of them for that. I'd say that the e.l.f. one probably wears the worst out of these. Like I just feel like there's quite a bit more fading with this one than these 2, but overall they're all like pretty decent eyeliners. I think my favourite is probably the Maybelline one, just because it lasts a bit better and it also just feels a little bit smoother on the waterline. None of these are like the most creamy because they're twisty up ones. I just say the Maybelline one's better, but they're all really pigmented, all show up really well in the waterline, so they're all decent eyeliners, but I think I just prefer the Maybelline one out of these. And then I tried 2 liquid liners from Bourjois. So I've got these are both called the Liner Features, and they're both in the shade Ultra Black. One of them is a slim one though, and one's just the standard sized one. I like both of these. I actually really like them quite a lot. I've used them a lot. I've got them on today. I think I've got the one that isn't the slim one on. They just like show up like really well. They're super pigmented, super dramatic, fairly easy to use. I like both of them. I think I prefer the one that isn't slim actually. I feel like it's slightly easier to use, but I still feel like the slim one works absolutely fine. It's just like a bit like, I don't know, it's probably just because I've not got steady hands at all. But I think these two are definitely very good, decent drugstore liquid liners, felt tip ones that I would recommend. So I tried 3 different mascaras. So I've got the ELF Keep Your Curl mascara, the Rebel Eyes mascara from KOHL, the long wear volume one with sea buckthorn. The hell is sea buckthorn? I don't know. And then I also tried the Bourjois Volume Glamour Ultra Curl mascara. I think the ELF one is really good. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it is. It has a lot of volume, it has a lot of length, a lot of thickness, and it just gives you a little bit of a curl as well. I think this is a really good mascara, very similar to like the Maybelline Last Sensational, especially the like shape of the wand. My one issue with this is that I do feel like after like 3 weeks or so, it definitely started to dry up quite a lot. It's not in its prime now. I can still get a mascara look out of it. I just feel like it is starting to kind of dry up and run out, so it doesn't have the like longest sort of shelf life. But if I'm honest, I find this with like majority of mascaras that I try, you know, just some do it a little bit faster than others. The KOHL Rebel Eyes I also quite like as well. It's definitely got some good volume and some good length. I have found that it does clump a little bit, like when you're kind of combing it through your lashes. Sometimes they do tend to get like stuck together, and it can be a little bit unflattering. But you just have to kind of keep working with it until you kind of get it right in the end. It's got a lot of volume though, so it is a pretty decent mascara. I will give it that. It's just a tiny bit clumpy, which, I mean, I like clumpy, but it's like clumpy in the way that it kind of sticks your lashes together, and it's kind of hard to get them looking quite, you know, like feathered out. Didn't have any issues with like weird transferring or smudginess with these two, so that's great. I think these are 2 pretty decent mascaras, but obviously they just do tend to dry up quite fast to me. This one's got the most moisture left in it. This is the Bourjois Volume Glam Ultra Curl. I was a bit underwhelmed with this. The thing that I do like to do with it is just to kind of top it on like top of other mascaras, especially like these two, because they're now kind of starting to dry out a bit. Like I'll use this to just kind of top over it to just kind of push through the product a bit more and just add a little bit extra. It works quite well in terms of that, but I just find on its own it just doesn't have the volume or the length or any of that stuff that I want from a mascara. I just found it quite underwhelming, to be honest, and I've had a good experience with Bourjois mascaras in the past, and they had good reviews as well. But for me, this just didn't really give me the volume that I wanted for my lashes. I just really wanted quite a bit more from it, but I do like it for topping over the top of other mascaras. Out of these, I would definitely recommend trying the ELF mascara, especially because it's not too expensive. It's just, you know, if you're like me and you put shit ton of mascara on and use it pretty much every day, it may run out quite fast. I tried 3 different eyeshadow palettes, so I'll talk about this one first. This is the ELF 18 Hit Wonders palette, which I have got on my eyeballs today. I love this palette. I honestly think that this is really good. Like, all the shades show up really well. I feel like there was one shade that I had some issues with, and that would be this blue shade called Electric. I mean, for me, it's just kind of like, it doesn't quite look as vibrant as it does in the pan, as it shows up on the eyes, but it's literally only that shade. Everything else in this palette is gorgeous. Like, the mattes are stunning. They blend so easily. They show up so well. I mean, you can kind of see like this yellow, and I've heard that yellows are quite difficult to formulate, but this yellow is just like amazing. The shimmers are absolutely stunning. The silver is beautiful. This greeny mossy colour one is beautiful. This white one, I've even hit pan on this bloody white one. I don't know if you can see that. Pave. It's like a pearly white. Orange, the red, this green. I obviously used the green today, and like, God, I was really impressed. Also, this kind of maroony shade. Sometimes I find shades like this like can go a bit patchy and don't always blend well, but I've got that through the crease today, and yeah, it's really good. Like, I'm super impressed with this eyeshadow palette. This is definitely going to become one of my favourites. Really like this. It's a little bit pricey for a drugstore palette, but based on the quality, I'm not even mad about that, because I think like quality wise it's kind of worth it, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it can rival like high-end formulas. Really nice palette from ELF, really impressed with it, would recommend it. I also tried Tammy's new palette from Revolution, the Tropical Carnival Shadow Palette. I've played around with all 3 of these palettes a few times. I would say I've gotten at least 3 different eyeshadow looks with each of them. I mean, to be honest, I would prefer to have done more, so I could just, you know, try absolutely every shade, but I mean, there's going to be a couple shades I've not used. This palette I have mixed opinions on. I love the actual colours in it. I think it's like gorgeous. I've not had any issues with the shimmer shades. I think all the shimmer shades are actually beautiful and show up really well, and they don't blend at all, they don't blend weirdly or anything like that. They're not patchy or anything. I especially love this sort of neon fluorescent yellow shade. I think that was absolutely stunning. I did just fine with some of the mattes. They could go a little bit patchy. Not all of them, and I can't even remember which ones it was. I think it might have been some of the pinker, purpley ones. Maybe even the yellow. I don't actually know because I don't remember, but I know that the few times that I've used it, I did notice that some of the mattes were a little bit patchy and hard to work with. And it could be down to it just being like a pressed pigment sort of thing, and they are generally harder to work with. But I don't know, I still just feel like I'm not in love with this palette, and I probably do prefer her first palette because I really like her first palette. I think it's great and the formula is very consistent. I love the shimmers, and like I have got some like decent eyeshadow looks out of it, definitely. It's not a bad palette, absolutely not. It's a nice palette. Just a few little inconsistencies in it with some of the matte shades that I found, but I will still continue to use it and like get some different eyeshadow looks out of it. I think it's a nice palette, but I just feel like maybe there's a few issues with some of the mattes. And honestly, I feel like I have a similar sort of experience with this guy. This is from Certify. It's the Affinity 2 palette, and the packaging's absolutely gorgeous, and the colour scheme is like, ugh, like these colours, like totally up my street. Like, it's basically all greens and blues and some silvery shades in it. And again, like these shimmers are absolutely beautiful, like the silvers, this blue, this white, this like weed, holographic-y shade, like those are all beautiful. Again, I just found that with some of the matte shades, like the blue and the greens, it could go a bit patchy. Like I would do like a nice eyeshadow look, and then like I'd be blending it through the crease or something, and then like the colour just wouldn't stick properly. Like it would just kind of patch up and it wouldn't blend properly, and it would just look like there was like kind of patch of my eyeshadow that was unblended, even though I was sitting there blending it like hell trying to get it to work. So yeah, again, like with the Tammy palette, I just feel like there's a few little inconsistencies with this, and this one is a lot more expensive. Like there's definitely some stunning shades in here, and I have gotten like, again, decent eyeshadow looks out of it, but I don't know, I just found that some of like the mattes were just a bit patchy. Yeah, I don't know, this could just be down to me like not being good at applying eyeshadow. Maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but I mean I still really like the palette and would definitely keep using it, but I don't know, I just feel like I wanted a bit more consistency with it. There was a few different lip products that I tried, but nothing that I fell in love with, so I've got this one on today. It's the Max Factor Matte 05 Nude lipstick. So I'll just top this up a bit. The formula's pretty nice, it's very creamy, but it's very creamy that it doesn't really dry down to matte. I would prefer it to have a bit more of a matte finish. I just feel like the colour's a little bit too pinky for me. Like I'd rather it be a little bit more neutral, a little bit more browny. It's just leans a little bit too pinky for me. Would prefer less in my nudes. Like it's a very standard, just decent lipstick, but it's not my favourite bullet. There was an e.l.f. one as well. It was like one of their bullet lipsticks in the shade Blushing Brown. I've not got it on me at the moment. That one I just found it was a bit too creamy. It wasn't very matte, so it didn't have the best like longevity. And it also tasted like sugar, and it was actually really nice. You shouldn't try and eat your lip products really, should you? This one I really liked, however. This one definitely had more of a like matte finish to it. This was the, this one is in the shade Scarlet Night. It's one of their like crayons. I mean, it's quite a deep red colour, so I'm obviously not going to use that all the time, like when I'm going to work and things. But I did actually really like the formula of this one. It was very matte, so you're going to get good longevity with it. I've not really used it a lot, to be honest. And then the last thing I'll talk about was this guy, the L'Oreal Shake and Glow Illuminating Setting Spray. This was okay. I was expecting more from it. I just kind of wanted something that I could put on over my face, and it just made it look a bit more dewy and kind of meshed together all nicely. I don't really feel like it makes your face look super dewy or less powdery or anything like that. Like it does like a little bit, like it makes your highlighter pop a little bit, which is nice. I feel like I was just expecting a little bit more from this, but I don't dislike it. I've used it quite a lot. It's a nice setting spray, but I feel like I just wanted a bit more dewiness from it. So that is all of the makeup products that I'm going to talk about today, and my throat feels horrible because I've been filming for almost an hour. I hope I can edit that down. So my next makeup recap will be the June and July products that I've tried, so that will be up in August. Hopefully, maybe September, probably August. I feel like I'm being more productive now with my channel, so it should be August. That's all I got to say on makeup today, because I really want to start talking. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully I gave you some more insight. I tried my best. I'm sorry if I didn't have a lot to say about everything, but I tried to gather what I could from my brain and my memory, and that's all. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.